Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I am joining
Can
from
I
South
just, I
Africa.
beg your pardon, Dipane, could I just get you to put that on full screen, please? Your slides. Yes,
Is it
excellent.
okay
Thank
now?
you. Go for it. Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you very much. I'm joining you from South Africa, and it's the wee hours of the morning here. It's 30 minutes after 12 in the morning. So, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining. And I was told that we should maybe try to tackle briefly our experiences and challenges when it comes to ethics. My research project is on rural education and the ethics thereof. That's why the topic is a funded project, so we are taking it over 3 years. And just briefly about the rurality and the rural spaces. We say an ethical approach to rural research. Let me just try and hide here. Yes, it's one that recognizes the effects of geography and location on the design, funding, implementation, and reporting of the research. You'll see some of the Australian scholars there in rural education, like Reed, like Downs. And then therefore consideration or omission of the peculiarities of the rural places has the potential to either benefit or harm people, places, and their communities. And in brief, there's a few authors here that gave the rationale for researchers to be sensitive to rural spaces and rural communities. And Nkosi there and others caution that real power differences in social and political vulnerabilities underscore the ongoing need for the protection of participants in research, ensuring that persons who are susceptible to physical or psychological harm, exploitation, or coercion are recognized as such and safeguarded while entitled to meaningful engagement and respect. In other words, rural people, we regard them as vulnerable populations. Therefore, in terms of the researcher and the rural communities, there are real power differentials, and the vulnerable populations or participants in rural communities must be protected or safeguarded. Therefore, while the universal principles should unwaveringly be upheld at all times, ethical practices need to be attentive, sensitive, and appreciative, and adaptable to the rural attributes of rural research spaces, peoples, and communities. One of the studies that we did here that looked at literature on ethics in rural research. We had 189 publications, 159 articles, 30 book chapters from 2014 to 2023, 69 being sole authored and others 119 international and 70 South African. 53% made reference to ethics. So the 47% just silent about ethics when it comes to rural communities. So it's a considerable amount of researchers that say nothing about ethics when they do research in rural communities and with rural people. 60 out of the 101 mentioned further details. The further details will include, they will talk about privacy, they will talk about respect for participants in rural communities. But let me take you through the four struggles quickly that I want to highlight here. Research ethics and integrity in rural communities. Notwithstanding the fact that the universal principles, I think I have mentioned this one. So, and then this other one consideration, I think it's just an introduction or a background information to making my point. Their respect comes again as an issue, very challenging issue for rural people. There is the attitude there of getting the job done on the ground. So rural spaces and rural communities regarded as the ground, and therefore we have to get the job done no matter what. And then they also emphasize on the high standards as if in rural communities standards are compromised. Therefore, and then what is missing there is that the outsider's view is not disputed, that the researchers come from outside of rural communities and their views are such and their attitude is just get the job done, maintain high standards. as if rural people have nothing to say about their spaces and the research. So, and then achieving voluntary informed consent, there is a struggle, and it's well documented. One, translation into local languages. In order for it to be informed consent, there must be understanding. You must understand it. If it's not written in their language or presented in their language, they may not understand it. Therefore, it may not be informed consent. And then there's also a higher level of illiteracy, and then misunderstanding sometimes of informed consent. Looks like if the informed consent is presented, therefore, it goes without saying that they have to participate. In some instances, they are given insufficient information and then taking advantage of them. Gatekeeping is also another problem where the gatekeeper can be an induna, a chief, or a king. So because they hold some power, when they've given gatekeeper permission, participants or community members in there think that already informed consent is confirmed, whilst it's not the case. Those are the few issues that I wanted to share with you, colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. There's a wealth of information in there. I'm just going to look on the chat to see whether we've got any questions. We've got perhaps a couple of questions, comments in the question and answer. That is, your presentation is really appreciated, and commitment by presenting in the middle of the night, which I absolutely reiterate. I have a couple of questions, if I may, Dipane.
Yes.
You talked about the universal ethical principles should be unwaveringly be upheld at all times. So there's two issues for me there. One is how an ethics committee is going to understand them sufficiently. And there's been a lot of talk about appropriate review by appropriately constituted ethics committees. So that's one problem. So if those issues cannot be even identified, then we can't effectively question and ask the right questions of researchers. And then, of course, there's the other aspect, which is frequently not monitored, and that is the actual research conduct. Have you any sort of hints for how we might get over both of those?
Yes, I think the first one is very important, that how the committee is constituted. What expertise do you have on the committees? So do you have people that have specialized in rural education? I know one of the local colleagues in one of the local universities was saying all of the research or protocols dealing with rural education are always sent back because there are no members in there that understand them. In our case, we have some window to bring in experts. Only for that time. So sometimes most of the time they help us. We give them those applications. They try to help us understand them. We still have to decide, but they help us understand the context better. So that's how we deal with it. I can't remember. Maybe it's the middle of the night. I can't remember the second question.
It was about how one can really monitor the research conduct. So people go out to the rural community, and as you say, things like reluctance even to translate into the local languages, which sounds the most basic expectation. So how is that monitored?
Yeah, Hello?
Hello. Yes, can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, okay. The screen went off a little bit.
Oh, okay.
In our case, we South African universities will have the Research Integrity Office. So the Research Integrity Office deals with the post-approval issues.
Right. And that's just at your university, is it?
My university is still setting it up. Other universities have them.
Okay.
So for now, we still rely on the good conscience of the supervisor.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
We've got
and
a
the whistle
question.
and
Sorry,
we
I
also
beg your
have
pardon.
the whistleblowing line. So sometimes we pick them up through whistleblowing.
Okay. We've got a question in the Q&A about whether there is a national standard to ethics review and also a similar. We have in Australia something called the Code, which is a code of research conduct for researchers. So do you have either of those?
Yes, we have all of us here. The research ethics committees were established on the basis of the National Health Act. So the National Health Act established the National Health Research Ethics Council. It's a national body.
Right.
So that national body issues guidelines for researchers and processes and so on. And we have the 2024, the latest one was recently published and launched, I think in August. So we have the latest one. The previous one was the 2015 one. So I think there were issues that were
then addressed.
the 2015 ones were silent about. So the 2024 one tried to clear the processes and so on. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So we have that national standard. Yes.
That's good. We've had a recent update to our national statement on ethical conduct in human research as well, which is the document that ethics committees adhere to. I've had another comment saying excellent presentation, and to thank you very much indeed. If I'm just checking whether there are any other questions, and okay, I think you've answered all my questions and all the other questions. So thank you very much, and we'll move on.